In this three-part installment of Things Vegans Say, I'll be discussing the arguments of Dr. Jason Kaplan, a cardiologist whom I was recently in a debate with on vegan versus carnivore diet.
Thinking about outcomes, because it's fine to think about what we see, then it's fine to think about biomarkers, but how can we show a plant-based diet can reduce both cardiovascular event rates and malignancy? And these are the only dietary pattern that has shown to reduce obesity. And we do know, some people think they can lose a lot of weight on a ketogenic or carnivore diet, and perhaps some people do. So you'll have a thinner coffin when you die, and you'll be there sooner.
Okay, so I mean, he literally just contradicted himself. Okay, he's saying that there's no diet that shows that you can get weight loss. Accept a vegan diet. Oh, I mean, I guess you could with keto, but you're just gonna die. Okay, well, does it make you lose weight or doesn't it? Okay, and again, what vegan diet? What kind of vegan diet are you doing? The Oreo cookie and heroin diet? That's vegan. Meth is vegan. Okay, just means no meat, right? Rocks are vegan. Okay, so define your terms here. Just any old vegan diet? No, obviously not. We know that. But then you're saying like, oh, nothing else has been shown to do this except for vegan diet. Oh, except for all these other things too, but you don't want those. Okay, well, you're not really helping your own argument here.
We know that vegan diets significantly improve dyslipidemia. We know that they reduce hypertension. We think.
Again, who gives a shit about dyslipidemia? Who cares about your cholesterol when you're not eating sugar, you're not drinking alcohol, and you're not eating a bunch of carbohydrates to jack up your blood sugar? Okay, if you're one of these people that are drinking alcohol, eating sugar, eating carbohydrates, and so forth, a statin might help you, because you do have this disease process, this inflammatory process that's going on. Okay, maybe that'll help. That would be an interesting study if you distinguish out those sorts of things. Okay, but yeah, otherwise, I really don't care about cholesterol as a doctor and as a patient. I just don't care.
We think about one of the most common causes of stroke and heart failure in Western world. It's hypertension. We know that a vegan diet predictably, improves diabetes and also heart failure.
Okay, so one of the most one of the diets that we have the most data on and conclusive evidence on for helping diabetes actually is the ketogenic diet. We've been using that for well over 100 years, and we've been using the 1800s to stabilize diabetics, blood sugar, and so forth. Okay, so there is just a ton of evidence showing that a ketogenic diet, like if you're diabetic, especially type 2 diabetic, type 1 as well, you really don't want to eat carbohydrates. You really don't want to eat sugar, so that is very important for that. So, and again, Oreo cookies, not going to be good for a diabetic. Hypertension, sure, hypertension is a killer, but we have no study showing that a carnivore diet increases your blood pressure. None. Okay? And I have dozens of patients right now on a carnivore diet. I've spoken to hundreds of people over the past few, thousands really. And there's people in carnivore groups and chat groups, things like that, where we talk about these sorts of things. Rivero Health is a really good one for that. There's different Facebook groups as well. Dr. Baker has helped tons of people. We're not seeing blood pressure be an issue. In fact, we're seeing people get off their blood pressure medication. My father's had intractable blood pressure problems for yonks. He doesn't anymore. That's very stable now. I've been eating this way for I've always been heavy meat eater, and I've basically been always basically been a pure carnivore. I eat everything else by sufferance. But for about the last 20 years, I was really full on for a solid 5 years, and then sort of slipped off. I was eating little bits and pieces of things here and there, and then for the last 5-6 years, absolutely not anything besides meat, salt, water. Okay, I don't have any blood pressure issues. Okay. And, my patients don't have blood pressure issues on a carnivore diet either. Okay. And I've never heard of that. I've never heard of someone going carnivore and having a blood pressure issue. Simple reason why, physiologically, humans are carnivores. That's the kind of animal we are. That's how we develop. That's how we evolved. So, you go to first principles. We're not going to have these disease state processes if you are eating naturally. Elderly lions probably don't have a bunch of blood pressure issues if they're just, still eating meat. Okay, that's an abnormal pathology that comes about when eating the wrong thing.
Yeah. There are multiple studies published in literature, in large peer-reviewed literature, especially in journals like the Journal of American Cardiology Journal, which shows the more serving of animal foods you have, the greater the chance of heart disease, with a follow-up of 4.8 million person years. And one of the most important studies is that for every even if we replace a small amount of animal protein with plant protein, we can show a significant reduction, not only in cardiovascular disease, but cancer. It's no point treating everyone with heart disease only for them to die of cancer many years later.
Okay, again, so you get these associations, correlation is not causation, and again, these epidemiological studies are saying that, like, this, meat eaters. What does that mean? That does not mean carnivores. That means someone who eats meat and also smokes and drinks and drives too fast. Okay, but I don't know which ones he's quoting there. They've done tons of these over the decades, but the recent ones corrected and controlled for those sorts of things. They didn't even find an association with eating meat and these poorer outcomes. Okay. So, again, like, I don't know what study he's referring to where you're replacing some, animal protein with plant protein, and that improves some things somehow. I'd have to take a look at the study and have to know what he's talking about there. But it sounds pretty suspect, honestly, because it doesn't make any damn sense. If that's the only thing that you're changing in that system. And again, this is going to be a system eating, the SAD diet, standard Australian diet, standard American diet, things like that, with a bunch of other crap in it. Okay. So it's not the meat that's doing this. Show me a single study showing that you've controlled for everything else except for meat. And meat is the problem. Show me one study that says that. There are none.
And we do know that people that adopted a plant-based diet had significantly reduced malignancy rates.
30 seconds, Jason. 30 seconds.
30 seconds. So I'd like to sum up that a vegan diet is the only dietary pattern that in a Western society has shown a reduction in both the incidence and allows us treatment for the major diseases that afflict Western society, and is sustainable for our planet, for our population, and for our patients to follow.
Okay, so sustainable for the planet, that is absolutely incorrect. When you grow a crop, you necessarily have to destroy an entire ecosystem. You have to bulldoze and destroy all the plants, kill all the animals, rip up the ground, till it up, and then plant your crops. Okay, and crops, well, just any plant in general, they take nutrients. They get their nutrients from their soil, right? What puts the nutrients back in? Animals. So when you're having an ecosystem, you have plants and animals living in symbiosis where they each nourish and help each other. Okay, so animals will be eating the plants, and then their excretions and so forth will then replace those nutrients back into the soil. Okay, and that is what nourishes, that what replenishes the nutrients in the soil. Okay, and that's what keeps plants growing again. Tons of people have done this. Alan Savory, who's out in Zimbabwe, has been doing this for 40 years or something like that, taking large herds of animals, moving through deserts, moving through mines, like strip mines and things like that. And actually, because those animals are there, all of a sudden these things are able to, regrow the soil, re-nourish the soil, and they all of a sudden they're growing just massive amounts of vegetation and so forth. Forests are coming back, then new animals will come back through, and start migrating there and so forth. It's massive changes. Dr. Peter Ballerstedt, who's a very interesting guy. You should look up his stuff. I'll try to put some links to these guys in the description. He's a PhD in forage agronomy. I've spoken to him, just personally. I was very interested in his work, and so I emailed him, and we ended up having a discussion over Zoom. Very interesting guy, very bright guy. Really shows the science behind how important animals are to the environment. Think about it this way: during the Dust Bowl in America during the 1930s, no one could grow anything. You had dust storms, all these sorts of things. Everything was horrible. We've then figured, and it was turning into a desert. It was turning into like the Sahara Desert, right? Which is man-made, by the way. Look it up. And we figured this out. This was actually the farming techniques, okay? And we realized that, this was when you're tilling this soil, you're making large rows of this stuff. It rains, it washes all the topsoil away. Wind hits it, picks it up, blows it all away. Okay, so you're losing all this topsoil. We're able to change things around to mitigate that, but we still lose billions of tons a year. In 2017, we lost 27.5 billion tons of topsoil. Okay, that's an area the size of Kentucky. Okay, which is the size of a European country. Okay, so that's a finite resource as well. It takes 500 years to grow a centimeter of topsoil. Okay, that is going to run out a lot quicker than we realize, okay? And so, that's a big problem. And, where do these fertilizers come from for crops? They come from animals. They come from livestock, okay? They come from their manure. They talk about animals, if we just weren't growing all this, corn and things like that for, animal feed and stuff like that, we'd have more than enough food and blah, 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 blah. That's nonsense. The feed that they give to animals is like hay. How much hay do you want to eat? Exactly. Okay? They're eating the parts of the plants that we cannot eat, that we cannot digest. 92% of the feed of the crops grown for animals, for livestock, is inedible by humans. It's the leavings, it's the waste. Okay? So it's like, the shaft of the wheat and things like that. We can't eat that. That's given to cows, okay? And they eat that. Their manure replenishes the soil, okay? So this is nonsense. And, helping that is just nonsense, So I can go into that and other things, but watch Peter Ballerstedt, watch Alan Savory. He did several YouTube talks, and he had a TED Talk as well. Quickly about, the Sahara Desert. That actually wasn't a desert several thousand years ago, okay, before the agricultural revolution. That's what changed things, in my opinion. I think that anyway. I think the evidence is there. The pyramids and Sphinx, we had soil samples done in the 1990s that actually looked and found that, they were like, oh, was these always desert people? They found no, actually these were built in jungles. These were jungle people. These were jungle pyramids. Okay, but they had widespread farming that sort of grew around that time, and in the BC era, and it turned things to desert because they didn't figure it out. You had the Nile River, which flooded every year, and the silt would replenish the nutrients. We learned this as kids, and we don't think past that. But what does that mean? That means that the nutrients needed to be replenished every single year. Where all the places that didn't have a Nile River, they didn't get replenished. They couldn't grow things after that. Turned to deserts. We have satellite images, infrared satellite images that actually showed that there's like human habitation sort of like all across what is now the Sahara Desert. Structures and things like that. The bones of a structure and civilizations and things like that. That was not desert. Okay, these things were made by agriculture, by crops. Okay, not animals. The animals are what kept these things alive. Okay, and that's what keeps the environment and the ecosystem alive. Okay, so I think that's probably enough for that one. Sorry that I had a lot to say about that. I'll do the other participants as well, because I think there's definitely things to address there in other videos. This one was mostly surrounded by with the cholesterol debate, and I think that's something that's very, very important, because that's central to this discussion on plant-based versus, meat diets and carnivore, vegan, and so forth being the extremes of that. But it's something that's very, very important. It's something I have patients and friends and colleagues going, oh, well, what about cholesterol? What about cholesterol? What about cholesterol? Okay, so you look like you're in good shape. You look like you're healthy, and all your bloods and everything like that show you're very, very, very healthy. But what's your cholesterol doing? I'll tell you what my cholesterol is doing. I don't give a damn. I know what my cholesterol is, but I don't give a damn. Okay? It's actually basically normal, but I don't give a damn. If it's high, it's physiological. Whatever it is, it's physiological because I'm eating in an evolutionary, biological, species-specific way. And so whatever my cholesterol is, whatever my bloods are doing, they're supposed to be doing that. We have these blood markers and these studies and these standardized tests that we use that are predicated on lies. Okay, so we need to rethink these, and we need to get different reference ranges and so forth to tell us what's actually healthy and what's not. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be doing further videos every week. I'll probably do a little more than that as well. Sometimes I'm starting a podcast as well with a friend of mine, Simon Lewis, called How to Carnivore with the Plant-Free MD. That's me, no plants. And I'll do more of these rebuttal sort of videos as well. I'm sure they'd like to do it from I think that would be great. I would love to have a conversation with these guys, one-on-one, maybe even over video on podcasting, because I'm sure they had, things that I said and that we said, I'm sure they had tons of things that they wanted to say about that. And that's how you work this out. You both talk back and forth. You say, well, you said this, however, I've seen this study and looked at this, what about this? And they say the same thing back to you, and you have a discussion. And I think that that's a very healthy thing to do. I think that's really the best way to come to, some sort of conclusion. Maybe you guys, end up walking away saying you're going to agree to disagree, but, other people can take away a lot from that, and hopefully we can set that up in the future. All right, guys, if you can like and subscribe and share this with people, that would really help. I'm just getting the channel started, and obviously that is helpful when you do that. So click the little bell and you'll see more of my stuff. Thanks, guys.